Thank you very much, Sandy. So good morning, members, and welcome to the meeting of the Wigtown Area Committee today, Thursday, the 10th of June. Meetings are still being held very differently to public due to the public health regulations and the evolving nature of COVID-19. We're not currently gathering physically in one place, hence why members are still using Microsoft Teams to participate virtually. This meeting is being recorded and the recording will be made available on the Council website for public listening. Could I remind members to follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off your video when you're not addressing the meeting. I would also ask if you wish to contribute to any items, please write speak in the chat, or if you raise your hand, I will try and keep an eye. I've got a couple of streams going on here as well. The chat function should not be used for contributions or questions that are not for material to the debate. And the usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. Should any member wish to leave the meeting for any reason, can I remind you to either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time, or you could write leave in the Teams chat function and then join, and this will allow us to monitor members' presence. Now, before I go on to the business of the meeting this morning, can I say from all of us at Wigtown Area Committee that our thoughts are very much with the family and the very many friends and colleagues of Graham McKee, Ward Officer. Graham was an exceedingly good friend and colleague to all of us and a very special person who gave so much to the many communities he helped, always with friendliness, willingness and a smile. We will all miss Graham very much, though he will remain in our thoughts, and the work that he did will continue to help the communities he so ably worked with. Can I suggest that we take just now, before we start, 1 minute silence to remember Graham, if members are happy to do so. Thank you, members. So if we move on to our business for today, our first item is the Sederin and apologies and my approval of the remote participation. Can I ask the clerk to provide the Sederin for me, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. We've got 6 members present, and I have apologies from Councillor Sloan. Not present at the start of the meeting is Councillor Giusti.
Thank you, Tracy. And in terms of declarations of interest, item 2, do any members have a declaration of interest? Nope, I'm not seeing any hands up or anything in the chat. So we will move on to our substantive item today. It is a one-item agenda and we're being asked to agree the priority criteria and eligibility for the Wigtown Area Committee Poverty and Inequalities Budget for 2021. We have scheduled this special meeting in order to enable to allocate this budget at the earliest opportunity, as we know it's crucial to our communities in tackling the effects of poverty. Throughout lockdown, our communities have worked really hard to help mitigate some of the worst effects of poverty, and we wish to support them as effectively as we can. This budget is one way we can do so. Members will be aware that the following committee's decision on the 5th of May that applications to this budget will be agreed via this committee, and there was also an agreement for a member seminar. The report reflects comments from the member seminar, which was held on the 27th of May. I'm pleased to see that in the report that if we can reach agreement today on the priorities, criteria and eligibility, then officers will be able to get the ball rolling immediately, and the call for applications can go out in around 1 week. So we do have Wendy Jeston here to speak, and I believe we've also got Ingrid on the call as well, should we need. But before I open it up to questions, Wendy, is there anything you wish to add at this point?
Yes, good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. It's good to see you all again. And I'd just like to add a note of thanks for all of your input during the draft criteria discussions that we had at the seminar. It was really beneficial to hear all your thoughts and to have such a good, robust debate on everything that was discussed that day. So I welcome your input as always on that. There's just a couple of things, Chair, just to add. In relation to point 3.4 on the report, where we talked about the seminar, I actually made a mistake there. Apologies, Chair and members, because it should say the 27th of May that the seminar was held on and not the 27th of June. We haven't managed to get time travel quite off to par yet, but I do apologise for that. And then in relation to the actual draft on Appendix 1, there was just a couple of things I wanted to update members on. So in relation to item 13, what we've done is we've split the eligibility, the criteria and the priorities into 3 separate sections, because we thought that would possibly read a wee bit better for the members as they go through this, and also for the applicants as they progress through the application process. So under item 13, I know that was one of the areas that we were wanting to particularly discuss today, and additional alternative wording which could be considered for that point was it would be unlikely that elected members would consider awards of over £10,000 for single application organisations and 20,000 for collaborative project applications, but I'm happy to discuss that in a bit more detail. And lastly, in relation to the section that we had previously included on the monitoring arrangements, that's also included in the grant award conditions which are sent out to applicants. So we were advised that that didn't need to be in the priority criteria and eligibility for this appendix, just in case members were wondering why that was no longer in, because it's included in the monitoring agreements which are signed along with the grant agreements. That doesn't actually need to be included in the priority eligibility and criteria. So thank you, Chair. Thanks, members.
Thanks, Wendy. Ingrid, were you wishing to add anything at this point?
Nothing further to add, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I've got a couple of members wishing to speak, but before I come to them, I mean, thank you, Wendy, for the update in terms of the eligibility or the criteria, sorry, that you outlined in there. One of the questions I have is the application form. I know that there has been feedback given previously to applications that the form can be quite arduous and quite long for small pots of money. And is this something that we're looking at? Obviously, we don't have a copy of the actual form before us today, and apologies, I wasn't able to make the member seminar. I was in another meeting actually at the time. So is that something that we're looking at? Because obviously, you know, as I said at the start, we want to get this money out as quickly and as easily as possible, but staying within our own governance. So is the form quite a simple form, or is it quite arduous? How many pages? You know, how much information are people having to put in there? Just because I'm conscious of capacity of some organisations.
Okay. Chair, I'm happy to come in there if that would help.
Yeah, thank you.
The application form, there is actually quite a long application form that we do have for the Poverty and Inequalities Funding, and last year we went through a bit of an audit on this process, and they actually recommended adding a couple of additional questions in. Now the application form was modelled on the previous area committee grant funding application, and we amended it to include all of the information that would be required in terms of the tackling poverty priorities, eligibility and criteria. So it was very much moulded around what we needed to ensure that the money was being used for the purposes that the funding was being given. But I wouldn't say it was no more arduous than any other application for a similar amount of funding. What we have done in the Annandale and Eskdale area previously was there was a small grant award form for grants of up to £1,000. And if elected members wanted to, we could do a similar form for the Wigtown Area Committee. So if it was grants for under £1,000, we could, or a set amount, members could agree that we could do a small grants application process if that was something that might be wished for, and that application is a lot shorter. There's basically only the contact details for the organisation, an overview of what they're wanting to do, what the outcomes would be, and just a couple of points, including the bank details and all the specific information that we would need to process the application. So it might be that members would want to consider that. So anything over, say, 1,000 or 1,500 could be done through the small grant application. Anything over that could be done through the normal grant process.
Thanks, Wendy. Certainly that's something I would be in favour of, and that's something that we have adopted with, as you say, with other pots of funds. So my understanding would be that would be entirely consistent with our approach to other points. But I'll bring in some other members. I see there's a couple of comments in the chat there. And I am concerned that Councillor Giusti did not receive his papers ahead of the meeting today, but the diary invites did go out. So I think that's maybe something that we maybe need to follow up with Councillor Giusti, because we don't want to be in a position where members are not able to contribute to any of the committees and as our roles as elected members. But Councillor Scobie, I think you were first to come in, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered when we were going to get in. But however, I would commend the work of Wendy and the suggestion that we do have an application form. I see Jackie's got something on chat there, or whatever they call it, that should want to see the applications, but I think it makes eminent sense to have small grants, if that simplifies things. But given the discussion we had at the seminar and what we have before us laid out, I would just move the recommendation. It's only a one-item business, I'm sure. We don't need to spend all day on it. I would just move the recommendations from the appendix in terms of the priorities that are laid out. Children are mentioned in there, which I'm quite happy to see. So happy to move, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Scobie. I will allow other members to come in before we move to that, but yes, certainly your motion to move that has been noted. Councillor Ingalls, would you like to come in, please?
Yeah, sorry, it was really just the point on Andrew Justice's papers. Yeah, Andrew's intended to work this morning, so unfortunately. Okay, thanks, Katie. Thank you very much. And Councillor McCammon, were you wishing to come in and speak to this? I see the comments in the chat.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. No, I will. I appreciate that the smaller application will make sense. However, I'm not in the habit of making decisions without seeing the material first. So, if a copy could be sent, that would be great. I'm sure that can be arranged. Thank you. I'm just looking to see if I've got any other hands. I don't have any other hands up. One of the other points that I wish to make. Oh, I see Councillor Coleman looking to come in. But when we're looking at the criteria, the only comment I sort of had on that one was that the number 12, it says applicants must demonstrate how they're working towards sustainability within their application form. And I think when we're looking at poverty and inequality, I would hope that we're not looking to sustain that, because we should be working to, as a council, as a government, as a country, we want to eradicate this. Let's be clear. So I wonder if it would be pertinent to maybe change that must demonstrate to should, because clearly we do want organisations to be working towards sustainability, but some of the organisations are providing, in my view, emergency responses to the current situation that we're in. So I don't know how other members feel about that one, but certainly my suggestion would be, could we change that to applicants should demonstrate, not must?
So that was my contribution with that one. But Councillor McComb, were you looking to come in, please?
Thanks, Katie. I'm looking at number 5, the last part of that. If projects are being delivered with organisations which are based out with the Wigtownshire area, the delivery of the project must be completed within the Wigtownshire area only. I think that could be a wee bit tidier. And can I suggest that the last part, rather than completed within the Wigtownshire area only, funding can only be provided for the Wigtownshire element of the project.
Okay.
Because the way the draft wording there is, if the project is region-wide or indeed nationwide, it possibly could be ruled out.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor McComb. Yeah, through yourself, Chair, I would be happy to amend that just to reflect the wording that you've stated there. So that would be no problem at all. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think these small wordings can make a big difference to that. So thank you very much, Councillor.
Just a wee bit clearer.
Yep. No, I think that's good. Just to sort of summary, there's the wording on number 5, and then the changing on 12, and then your wording to be changed on 13 to say that we're unlikely to look at, so adding in unlikely considering. So those are the sort of 3 points that have been raised this morning. Councillor Scobie, I see your hand is still up. Is that a legacy hand, or would you like to come in? Obviously, you've moved the motion that we go to the recommendations. There's the addition of these 3 points, but if members are content to move forward with these 3 additional points, and then I'll bring in Councillor Surtees. But Councillor Scobie, were you looking to come back in?
The hand's not up on my side, Katie, so I don't know why it's up.
Okay, no problem. I will ignore that hand coming up. Councillor Surtees.
Yeah, I'd like to agree with the points that have been changed, and I support going to the recommendations. Thank you for bringing up those points.
Thank you, everyone. So in that case, if we move to the recommendations, which are to agree the priorities, criteria and eligibility with the additional points mentioned for the Wigtown Area Committee Poverty and Inequalities Grants for 2021 and 2022 as summarised in the report. I don't have any other business this morning, but I would just like to say thank you very much for attending, and we'll look forward to getting the short turnaround. Wendy, I see your hand up, but yeah, we'll get those applications out and back to our next committee in September for getting the funds out. But Wendy, were you looking to come back in?
Just one tiny thing, Chair. It was just to say thank you for your minute silence at the beginning of the meeting on behalf of Graham and his family. I know a lot of us, including elected members, have worked with him for a long time, and a lot of them have been in touch to ask to pass on the condolences to the family. And I think it's just really kind that you did that and really touching. So thank you for doing that, Chair. Yep.
No problem, Wendy. I mean, as I said at the start, Graham will be hugely missed, and certainly I personally I'm so grateful for the care and the attention to detail that Graham gave me, certainly at the start of my council term, and I'm sure, as I said at the start, that's littered throughout the council. So yeah, I think it's a exceedingly tragic and very sad loss to the council, Graham's passing. But thank you very much, members, and I hope you have a good day, and we will see you shortly.